Chapter 1101, How is this possible? Tang Xiu looked at Cheng Yannan with some disappointment. He never thought Cheng Yannan still had such a narrow vision after she became an ability user. The children on the training ground were indeed really young, but they, nevertheless, possessed powerful strength. Any of them could easily kill a martial arts grandmaster should they go outside. Follow me. Leaving this order, he took Cheng Yannan, Guin, Kawako Yamamoto, Moao, and the rest to the training ground quickly. The discontent in Cheng Yannan's heart was not small, and her eyes constantly stared daggers at Tang Xiu's back. She was somewhat disappointed with him because she felt she wasn't taken seriously at all. He attended the training of that Japanese woman, Kawako Yamamoto, by himself, while she used to be his old classmate. And yet, she was thrown into a group of children soldiers. Did that mean she must play babysitter for those children? Quickly after, Tang Xiu came to the training ground with the group. They saw some children carrying heavy sandbags while running, part of their weight training to exercise their physical strength, whereas some other children were sitting cross-legged on a stone slab and silently practicing. Get set. Tang Xiu stepped on the air and walked step by step for a dozen meters high. He shouted loudly to the nearly 1,000 children on the training ground. Whoosh! 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 Figures flashed and moved quickly. In just 10 seconds, nearly 1,000 children were arranged in an orderly formation. Cheng Yannan still held a contemptuous look as she followed Tang Xiu. She thought that Tang Xiu brought her here to make her lose face. However, when she saw how fast they moved, her heartbeat rapidly sped up and she couldn't help but exclaim, "How is that possible?" Tang Xiu just shot her an indifferent glance. After the nearly 1,000 children gave the salute, he spoke in a deep voice. "You look down on them, Cheng Yannan, so I'll let them give you a good lesson today." After saying that, he shifted his vision to the children and said aloud, "All of you are the future talents of the sect, who will become a core of powerhouses that follow me, which I can summon at will. Though you are very young, you already know the cruelty of the world. You've witnessed that the weak can only be trampled on and can only live a miserable life. I've decided to assess you today. I hope I can see the results of your hard work and cultivation." "Yes, sir." 1,000 children answered in unison. Nodding with satisfaction, Tang Xiu pointed to Cheng Yannan. "She's our sect's new member because she and I have been good friends. That's why she feels rather conceited. She looks down on you after she previously came here and found out that she must train with you. She thought you were all just a group of babies who haven't grown up yet. Do you want her to look down on you?" "No. We refuse." The eyes of nearly 1,000 children glared at Cheng Yannan at the same time. They seemingly couldn't wait to teach her a lesson. "I'll give you this chance, Cheng Yannan." Tang Xiu provoked. "You see, these 960 children soldiers like babies. But you can pick any one of them to have a spar. If you have energy and want to take on all of them one after another, I'll give my consent as well. You have my word that if you defeat even only one out of them, I'll apologize for my previous attitude and will arrange someone else to carry on special training for you. You can even expect me to invest a lot of cultivation resources so your progress of cultivation will advance rapidly, and make you a formidable expert." After seeing the speed of these children just now, Cheng Yannan felt her heart was faintly drumming. But the anger that was just dissipated filled her heart again after hearing Tang Xiu's words. "Are you out of your mind? You want me to bully these children? You know I already awakened my special abilities, don't you? Even 8 to 10 average big men are not my match." 8 to 10 big men, huh? Tang Xiu sneered. "That's amazing. If so, you can pick any one of them. I want to see how such a formidable ability user like yourself defeats these children." "You." Cheng Yannan held her breath and turned to look at the 1,000 children, saying aloud, "Some of you, stand up." I want to see what kind of minor abilities you've learned after undergoing Tang Xiu's training. Whoosh. A thin figure quickly appeared in front of her. The boy's speed was so fast that Chang Yannan was unable to react and only felt that he already appeared in front of her. My name is Tang Jin, please enlighten me. The 7+ years old Tang Jin acted like a small adult and spoke with courtesy by cupping his fists. Chang Yannan felt funny, angry, and amused at the same time. Although she was angry with Tang Xiu for making fun of her, she was really reluctant to fight with the child before her. She hesitated for a moment, shook her head, and said, "You're Tang Jin, right? Please don't make a fool of yourself. You're still a child and I just spoke like that since I'm angry. No worries, I won't hit you. Please enlighten me," said Tang Jin with a serious face. Chang Yannan didn't expect this child would be this stubborn. She already spoke like that, yet the boy kept challenging her. Should she fight him? It's still a disgrace even if she did win because he was only a 7-year-old boy. But if she lost, that was impossible. How could she lose to a child? However, she saw how serious Tang Jin's face was, so she shook her head and reluctantly said, "You want to get a beating, so I'll teach you a lesson, brat. I'll make you realize that you're a child who doesn't know the immensity of the world." Having said that, she moved with footwork faster than the average person's running speed. She appeared instantly in front of Tang Jin and delivered a punch to him. Though she only exerted a little of her strength, she was confident that her punch would surely hit the boy's shoulder and make him cry. Whoosh! An afterimage flashed and Chang Yannan's punch that was supposed to be a sure hit was off the mark. How can this be? Chang Yannan's face froze. When she was about to turn her head to find Tang Jin's trace, she felt a huge force hit her back, sending her flying backward for 7+ meters, and then heavily fell on the ground. She rolled over a few meters before finally stopping. Cough, cough. Feeling a burning pain on her back, Chang Yannan felt the blood in her body turning chaotic. She quickly bounced up and shot a disbelieving look at Tang Jin. The boy looked at Tang Xiu somewhat disappointedly and said, "She is too weak, boss. Sparring with her is not the least bit challenging at all. Can I pass this?" Tang Xiu's smiling face turned thicker and he shot a teasing look toward Chang Yannan. In that instant, Chang Yannan's face turned beet red. The anger on her face turned thicker as she shouted, "You dare to look down on me, Tang Jin? Just wait, you'll see how I can pack you up." She took 2 heavy breaths and then charged toward Tang Jin, deciding that she mustn't take the boy lightly this time. But when her first was about to reach him, she suddenly felt her vision blur and piercing pain hit her chest in that instant. While feeling suffocated, her body was flying upside down and backward. Bam! As she heavily fell to the ground, turbulent dread now filled her heart although the pain was not unbearable. She wasn't stupid. But only at this moment did she finally realize that Tang Jin's speed was too fast. She wasn't his opponent even though she unleashed everything she got. However, the child was clearly a 7+ years old boy. He couldn't have such a formidable combat power even if he had been trained, right? Tang Xiu waved to Tang Jin and signaled for him to return to the row. Then, he looked at Chang Yannan and smilingly said, "How was it? Do you think these children are so easy to knock down now?" "That's right, did you hear Tang Jin's words? He doesn't want to spar with you since the current you is too weak and literally pose no challenge, at all." Chang Yannan was so furious and panted like she was going crazy. She never dreamed that a 7+ years old child would be so powerful. She sternly glared at Tang Xiu and said aloud, "Tang Sect Master, you must have made him come out intentionally, didn't you? You already knew he was this strong, so you wanted him to make me frustrated and lose my spirit?" I just said you can pick any of these nearly 1,000 children to be your sparring partner to accompany you to practice, didn't I? Tang Xiu retorted in disdain. "No need. Chang Yannan turned took at the children. She was adamant that Tang Xiu was deliberately saying that and thus hinted the most powerful among these children to face her. You, come out. She pointed to a certain boy who was of similar 7+ years of age at the forefront of the lineup. Can I refuse? The boy looked a bit helpless. You just sparred with Tang Jin and I've seen everything. You're too weak. Having a spar with you will be really boring. His response made Chang Yannan gasp with fury. Never once had it occurred to her that this boy would give her a cold shoulder just because she lost a moment ago. That's right. She got shut out and a cold shoulder response. She, a 20-year-old adult and an ability user, was being looked down upon by a 7+-year-old child. This literally gave her no face at all. Just wait until I spank your butt, brat. I'll make you cry. Chang Yannan yelled. Hey, since you want to spar with me, then, please enlighten me. The boy sighed after he saluted. Bah, damn, you're enlightening. Chang Yannan roared inwardly and charged towards the boy. She used her fastest speed and did not hold back anymore, unleashing everything to hit the boy. Bam. Still wearing a calm face, the boy delivered his punch in a similar fashion and met Chang Yannan's punch head-on. However, his body was firmly rooted on the ground, whereas Chang Yannan was sent flying backward screaming yet again. This time, she fell even more miserably since half of her face landed first to swipe the ground, causing her eyes to turn blue after the fall. Chapter 1102, Embarrassed Beyond Words. The boy, however, didn't take the chance to secure a victory strike, but ran to Chang Yannan, extending his hand to care for her. Are you okay? I was afraid to use my full power just now. That was just half of my power, as using more was useless. You're too weak, and I didn't do that on purpose. Puff. Chang Yannan was flustered and exasperated. It was such a mental attack that made her spurt a mouthful of blood. She was already dumbfounded at this moment. She could still have an excuse if this little guy took the initiative to come out and defeat her. She thought that Tang Xiu must have brewed up some dirty tricks secretly if it was the case. But she picked this boy herself this time. And yet, how come his strength was so powerful? As she punched him, it felt like she was hitting a steel plate, and the impact made her whole arm go numb. You. The boy hurriedly grabbed Chang Yannan's other arm, pulled her up until she stood and spoke with concern. You're not injured, are you? We're not enemies, and I don't want to hurt you since we're on the same side. Chang Yannan's lips shivered. She looked up at Tang Xiu and asked, what level of cultivation has he reached, exactly? Tell her, little guy, said Tang Xiu with a light smile. I just reached the late stage of qi refining, but I'm afraid it will be a while before I advance to the foundation establishment stage, answered the boy. But I'll definitely work hard to practice and have a breakthrough earlier later, boss. Tang Xiu smiled and nodded at him. He then waved at him and looked at Chang Yannan, asking, well, how was it? You kept being hit and sent upside down, can your body still endure it? If you still can withstand, stand up once more and pick your new match. That's right, you haven't yet used your special ability, so you can try unleashing your special abilities and see which one is more powerful in the next spar, your special abilities or these children soldiers. Chang Yannan took a deep breath and looked at a 5-year-old girl. This little girl was very thin and seemed like she had malnutrition. She hooked her finger toward the girl and said, little girl, it's not like Big Sis wants to bully you. But Big Sis just lost her face, so I want to win at least once. You can go all out to attack me, and I'll be sure to be careful on my part. The little girl smiled, revealing her 2 small tiger teeth, and said innocently, it doesn't matter, Big Sis. Boss already told us that we must go all out when fighting no matter what kind of enemies we face. I just got enlisted into the team for 6 months and I'm the weakest among my companions. What do you mean, Lil Sis? Asked Chang Yannan with a frown. That means you're already very powerful if you can win me, big sis. The little girl laughed and said, but if you can't defeat me, you don't have to challenge the rest anymore because you won't be able to defeat anyone else. Chang Yannan's face turned black. She almost couldn't resist punching the girl. It was crystal clear to her now that none of these seemingly harmless and innocent little guys were weak and easy to deal with as they seemed. Let's fight. Chang Yannan didn't bother speaking anymore. She needed to defeat one of them and gain back her dignity. The little girl slightly bowed. Please enlighten me. In order to gain back more of her dignity, Chang Yannan directly spoke, you move first. Okay. The little girl hesitated for a moment. Then, she observed Chang Yannan's left and right face and seriously said, big sis, I think the bruise on your face isn't symmetrical and kind of ruins your attractive face. But worry not, I'm going to help you, and you'll look pretty again. As her voice faded away, her fresh, reddish fist had already appeared in front of Chang Yannan. Just as the latter's pupils shrunk and had no time to block or dodge it, that pink fist had already hit her right eyelid. Just as she felt blurry after getting punched in the head and tried to retreat backward, the little girl's shadow closely followed her and sent a barrage of punches on the right half of her face. Only then did this little lassie step back, looking satisfied. The little lassie looked dull and halted as she saw Chang Yannan fall to the ground and cover the right side of her face. Tang Xiu looked at Chang Yannan with a strange face and shifted to the little girl with a similarly bizarre expression. He suddenly laughed and said aloud, I made you stay here to train without any malice toward you whatsoever, Chang Yannan. Those 3 kids, regardless of how tender their age is, are equally qualified to be your teachers. You should understand the principle of those who deserve to be called teachers regardless of any profession, shouldn't you? So, stay here and train well. I'll send someone to feed and strengthen you later. Moa and Kawako Yamamoto's faces were also flushed at this moment. They quickly rushed out of the training ground. They wanted to laugh, but then remembered that they would work with Chang Yannan in the future, so they could only hardly suppress the urge until they rushed out of the training ground and finally burst into laughter. Crawling up difficultly from the ground despite the burning pain in her face, Chang Yannan felt that her self-esteem was just hit harder now. She had lost. Completely and thoroughly in just one blow. She originally didn't want to bully these 3 little guys, but it resulted in her losing 3 fights and getting beaten by these 3 kids. No, she got beaten thrice. Only now did she finally realize clearly how narrow her previous thoughts were. She had looked down on these children, but it turned out that it was she who was ignorant to the extreme. It was very likely that any of these children could defeat her. Tang Xiu. Sect Master. With an apologetic face, Chang Yannan glanced deeply at the direction where Tang Xiu just vanished. Then, she shouted, You're back, Mo. After spending some time laughing, Mo returned to the training ground and looked at Chang Yannan's swollen face. He tried hard to restrain himself from laughing, saying, What's up? You don't feel training with them is a shameful thing now, right? I was wrong for misunderstanding Sect Master, said Chang Yannan bitterly. Anyhow, I want to ask you to train me well and make me as powerful as these children, Mo. Those who know and admit their faults will be able to reform themselves. Mo gave a thumbs up and praised. You finally realized it, so we'll officially begin. Anyhow, let me warn you first. The next training will be very painful and tiresome. You'll realize later that every minute and second is very difficult for you to hold on, so what I want from you is to stick with it. Can you do it? I can and I will, replied Chang Yannan while shooting a look at the 1,000 children. Mo nodded in response and shouted, Everyone, dismissed. Chang Yannan, go to the equipment room and take your equipment. Report to me here in 5 minutes. Where's the equipment room, though? Asked Chang Yannan. Mo stared blankly first, then immediately ordered aloud. Tang Jin, take her to the equipment room and take each set of equipment. Starting today, you're responsible for her training, so carry it out according to the training you got when you just started. But keep in mind not to delay your own cultivation. Roger that, sir. Tang Jin rushed over. The corner of Chang Yennan's mouth twitched a few times. She felt ashamed to be trained by a 7-plus-years-old kid. However, she then recalled Tang Jin's strength and felt much better. On the 9th barren island. After Tang Xiu brought Kawako here, he began special training for her. His training method was very brutal since he sealed up the acupoints on her body, causing her unable to use her true essence energy. Further, he personally cut 10 blocks of stone from a rocky mountain, the lightest one being 150 kilograms and the heaviest one being around 2 tons, which he ordered Kawako to lift the giant obelisk and do various kinds of training on the 9th barren island. However, the dozen peripheral members of the Tang sect stationed on the island joined the training after seeing Kawako grit her teeth and persevere on the bitter and painstaking training. Even though their cultivation was lower, their physical strength and constitution were not weak either. The training was torture, yet it made them grow. These people, like Kawako Yamamoto, continually improved their strength by following Tang Xiu's training program. There were even 2 outer disciples who made a breakthrough in their cultivation and became foundation establishment stage experts and therefore, became official disciples of the Tang sect. 7 days later, Kawako Yamamoto succeeded in absorbing all the accumulated medicinal energy in her system and, after breaking the limit of her physique, successfully advanced to the late stage of the Golden Core stage. In these 7 days, apart from supervising her cultivation routine, Tang Xiu didn't fall back in his own cultivation. He had also made big progress this week, though he had yet to activate any astral supernatural abilities. No need to rush. After consoling himself, Tang Xiu returned to 9 Dragons Island and spent 2 days tending to some issues. Then, he arranged Tom Reggie and Kawako Yamamoto to leave, whereas he grabbed Tang 28 and left for China. Back to Shanghai. Tang Yunda was sitting in the study of the villa at Blue Star Villa Complex. He was holding a book and silently reading it. In front of him were 2 middle-aged men in black suits, standing like stone statues with respectful faces. Ring, ring, ring. The ringtone of a cell phone interrupted Tang Yunda's train of thought and reading. After putting down the book, he picked up the phone and saw the caller on the screen. His face immediately shifted as he connected the phone call and spoke. "How was it? You got any news?" "We've clarified the news. He's in the Y country," a low and deep voice replied from the phone. A chilling light flashed in Tang Yunda's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Send me his specific coordinates and keep tabs on him." "Understood," the voice answered and then hung up. Tang Yunda drew a deep breath. He then looked at the 2 middle-aged men and said in a deep voice, "Immediately go to Y country. Remember, Xiao Wu will cooperate with you and keep a close tab on that bastard. Also, find some underground forces and pay them some money to move them out." "Understood," the 2 middle-aged men replied and strode out of the study. Outside the villa. Tang Xiu had just taken out the door card from his interspatial ring when the villa's door was opened from the inside, and 2 stalwart men came out. "Who are you?" Tang Xiu was sure he had never seen these 2 men, but they appeared in his own home now. This was not normal. "Young Master Tang." The 2 stalwart men had seen Tang Xiu's photos and thus recognized his identity, and called out respectfully. Chapter 1103, The Secret Chess Pieces. Tang Xiu slightly furrowed his brows. But as he instantly released his perception, his furrowed brows stretched and he smiled. "You came with my father." "But what happened though?" One of the big men respectfully said, "Young Master Tang, our cargo ship was robbed at sea. Our investigation found the other party isn't a pirate but a foreign force who has been targeting us, the Angra firm." Angra firm? The name was vaguely familiar to Tang Xiu, but he couldn't pinpoint where he had heard it from. Since he was unable to recall it, He waved and gestured the two men to leave, and then entered the villa alone. He bumped into a housemaid who was cleaning the interior and then went to the study on the second floor after greeting her. Knock, knock. Tang Xiu knocked on the door and then pushed it. He saw his father, Tang Yunda, frowning deeply and didn't hear him knocking, submerged in his own thoughts. He immediately let out a smile and said, "What are you thinking about, Dad? You seem spellbound by something." Tang Yunda immediately came back to his senses. After seeing Tang Xiu who just appeared in front of him, he looked a bit happy and asked, "Did you just come back? Aren't you supposed to be in Nine Dragons Island now?" "Everything there has been arranged, so I naturally came back to handle something," said Tang Xiu smilingly. "Anyhow, you seem to have bumped into some accidents here, though. Some people are destined to be enemies in life, though I didn't expect them to be rabid dogs." Tang Yunda sighed helplessly. "They still aggressively charge forward to bite once their target appears, even if we never hint nor try to be enemies with them. The losses this time were not big, but some of our men died." "Was it done by the Angra firm?" asked Tang Xiu curiously. "Huh? How did you know?" Tang Yunda was stunned and immediately asked. "I just bumped into your men in the courtyard, Dad," said Tang Xiu. Tang Yunda quickly understood and then forced a smile. "Yeah, those people from the Angra firm are the culprits. It's a company that relies entirely on arms sales. To be more precise, they are House Dolan's, since the real person in charge of Angra firm is one of the top 3 men in House Dolan, Immortal Dolan." It was then that Tang Xiu realized why he felt this Angra firm sounded familiar just now. There was a record on this Angra firm when he previously investigated House Dolan. However, there was only a scant number of information on it, while the person in charge was also very low-key. Tang Xiu slightly furrowed his brows and asked, "Is there any chance House Dolan got the news that you're still alive?" "I also think that it should be the case." Tang Yunda nodded. "House Dolan lost big time in past incidents, especially after we killed their most favored scion. They kinda put us as a thorn in their eyes and just couldn't wait to eliminate us quickly." Tang Xiu curled his mouth upward and asked, "Well, do you know who's the most favored scion of House Dolan now, Dad?" Tang Yunda was stunned, then he immediately let out a bitter smile. "Had you asked me about that a few days ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer. However, since the incident where my cargo ship was hijacked, I contacted the head operatives of the Dark Wind organization in China. I got the info from him that the most favored scion of House Dolan now is their most outstanding junior called Angelo Dolan." Without inquiring more detailed info about House Dolan, Tang Xiu said with a chilling tone, "Angelo Dolan is dead along with dozens of genetic warriors from the SOE company. That was the interest they paid for the debt they owe you from the past. But I want to know about the situation about this Dark Wind organization in the mainland, Dad." An inconceivable look on his face, Tang Yunda asked in surprise, "What did you just say? Angelo Dolan is dead? How can that be? He brought a lot of experts with him to Saipan and severely injured some of my men. Then, I made a very powerful person submit to me and successfully found his location with his help. House Dolan no longer has an Angelo Dolan from now on." Tang Yunda looked at his son deeply. Then, he raised a thumbs up and praised. "I killed their most favored scion in the past, and now my son followed suit. I really didn't just lay in bed for 2 decades in vain. Anyhow, what do you want to do with the Dark Wind organization, though?" "This Dark Wind organization is hidden in every corner of the world, and I feel they are like cancer," said Tang Xiu calmly. "They sold info about me once to others, so I obliterated that branch. Additionally, I also removed their branch in Saipan. You shouldn't act too recklessly, son." Tang Yunda gasped in horror. The Dark Wind may only be an intelligence agency, but rumors have it that it's stronger than the top 3 major organizations in the world. The extent of its hidden forces is still in the dark, and nobody could figure it out until now. Don't you think you'll still be under their tabs for whatever you do in the future, Dad? Tang Shou sneered. Tang Yunda hesitated a bit and helplessly said, but then again, we got no other choice. The Dark Wind has been in existence for centuries. Members of this organization rarely show their faces and are like mice, hiding in dark corners and constantly developing their intelligence network. Even the intelligence networks of various countries around the world can't contend with it. It's exactly because the Darkwind's intel network is too strong that it's necessary to get rid of and replace them, Dad. Tang Shou sneered. Besides, I've already prepared many arrangements, so you can rest assured about it. That's why I can tell you that I'm sure to completely obliterate this organization from the face of Earth, even if we lose all decorum with them now. Tang Yunda had heard about the establishment of the Tang sect by Tang Xiu. He also heard that his son had brought a lot of experts to kill demonic beasts in the Himalayas and his great military exploits. He knew his son was very strong, still, his son's words sent a quake in his heart. Destroying the Dark Wind organization? If my son can destroy this organization, then, does he have the power to reach the top of the pyramid in the world? I've assigned people to establish an intelligence network myself, Dad. Tang Xiu went on. I'll also increase my investment in this endeavor, so I'll be able to compile a huge information network around the world within 3 years. I won't only remove House Dolan, but will also disintegrate this Dark Wind organization and make them disappear from the world. How confident are you, exactly, son? Asked Tang Yunda hastily. 100%, answered Tang Shou solemnly. Tang Yunda got up from the sofa abruptly, looking ecstatic as he said aloud, "You're great, son. You're truly much better than your old man. Anyhow, come with me to a certain place. There's something I need to tell you, and I want you to have some people too." Tang Xiu was stunned. Huh? You got something I still don't know about, Dad? Tang Yunda grinned. I may have been lying in the hospital bed for many years, but is there anyone who has no secret? Before I got hit so badly that it caused me to go vegetative, I've actually been preparing for revenge. Although I've been staying in Star City, on the one hand, it was due to my disappointment, while on the other hand, was the concern about your mother. But still, how can a man not demand the due debt people owe him? No. Tang Xiu's eyes lit up as he nodded and said, all right. I'm going with you. Jingning District, Shanghai. As a black SUV slowly entered a factory gate, Tang Xiu, who was sitting in the car, looked pensive because there were more than 10 security guards at the gate. All of them looked ordinary and didn't emit out a strong aura, yet each and every shadow of the soldiers loomed over every action they did. He was also keenly aware of many people lurking in the hidden corners in the surroundings. He had released his perception and found nearly 50 experts in a few hundreds of meters radius. The place is tightly guarded, Dad. Tang Xiu turned to look at the calm-looking Tang Yunda and spoke slowly. That's certain, son. Tang Yunda smilingly said, this place is my biggest secret and also my biggest card. I know some layouts of our family, but even my father doesn't know what I've arranged here. Back when in Star City, I didn't expect House Dolan to sniff my track, so I only felt a little danger, hence causing my negligence. Otherwise, if I were to bring a lot of manpower to strike House Dolan's men lurking in China, it would have been very difficult to say who'd come out the victor. Tang Xiu's face slightly shifted and he nodded wordlessly. When the black SUV stopped at the square outside the warehouse, Tang Xiu saw 5 men and women coming out of the warehouse, one of whom was a young woman he had seen before. Brother Tang. Uncle Tang. Ni Penggang went forward to greet Tang Yunda with a big hug, while Ni Jia behind him called out respectfully. This is the first time seeing your little Jia after I woke up, isn't it, Penggang, said Tang Yunda. I never thought the little lassie from that year has grown up now. She looks so much like you, very beautiful. If you think she's a beauty, why don't you take her as the Tang family's daughter-in-law then, brother? Pengang smilingly said, "Anyway, I've long heard about the well-known name of my nephew, Tang Xiu." Tang Yunda burst into laughter. Then, he turned to Tang Xiu and said, "Xiu, this is the brother who has faced dangers and braved death with me numerous times in the past, and that one is his daughter, Jia. Pengang is one of our own and someone who we can entrust our back to. Uncle and I, Sister Jia, how do you do?" Tang Xiu greeted respectfully. "I just knew it when your old man called me, Tang Xiu." Pengang smilingly said, "I thought that we would just continue lying low for a long time to come. That's why I never thought you've grown up to be so powerful in such a short time and made your old man bring you here. Let's go inside. I'll take you to see some people who will become your most loyal men in the future." Chapter 1104, Luck Factor. Tang Xiu nodded wordlessly. He once sent his men to investigate Jia and naturally knew that Pengang was a businessman. Only, he didn't expect that the man had such a deep relationship with his father. As they headed to the warehouse, Tang Yunda spoke. "Pengang's older brother was also a brother who braved dangers and death with me in the past, son. But he met his death on the battlefield when he went to battle with House Dolan with me then. Pengang, however, retired early due to special reasons." Tang Xiu suddenly realized why the plan arranged his father in the past was still being implemented even though more than 2 decades had passed. It was because there were still people carrying it out. A murderous glint flashed in Pengang's eyes, but he shook his head and said, "My brother raised me up, and we were both bound by a common destiny, facing weal and woe together. I didn't expect him to leave so early, so I'll make sure to obliterate House Dolan thoroughly. All their clansmen must die." Tang Xiu's pace came to a halt as he watched Pengang's back. His figure suddenly flashed and appeared in front of him instantly. As he took out 4 silver needles from his interspatial ring, he instantly pierced his acupoints and, at the same time, grasped a sharp dagger and made a bleeding wound on the acupoint outside Pengang's lungs. "Xiu. Tang Xiu." Upon seeing Tang Xiu's actions, Tang Yunda and Jia's complexions drastically changed and called out in alarm, whereas the men and women around looked grim and exchanged dismayed glances as they moved toward them. Tang Xiu ignored his father and Jia altogether. While looking at the pale-faced Pengang, Tang Xiu said in a deep tone, "I already realized there are some problems with your body at first sight. The killing intent in you is too heavy, and it has affected the energy circulation in your heart and lungs. Although you can't see anything, if this condition goes on, the killing intent, resentment, and other negative emotions caused by yin energy will erode and damage your brain, and also cause your heart and lungs to fail and then lead you to die in pain. Now, sit cross-legged and do as I say. Please rest assured. You're my father's life and death brother and an elder I respect. I won't harm you." Pengang's complexion quickly returned to normal after hearing this. He trusted Tang Yunda since he believed the man also harbored hatred towards House Dolan as deep as his. Therefore, he also trusted Tang Xiu since he was Tang Yunda's son. Sitting cross-legged, Pengang silently closed his eyes. "You must have been cultivating in Qigong, but the opened-up meridians are of yin type, so your cultivation technique itself has a problem," continued Tang Xiu in a deep voice. "It wouldn't have been a problem if the one who cultivated it was a woman, but you're a man with vigorous yang energy, so practicing it became a big problem for you. Concentrate and calm your mind. Control the energy in your system and let it all flow toward the lungs and acupoints. I've already opened a hole there, and now is your turn to excrete all the yin energy in your system." Pengang suddenly opened his eyes and stared at Tang Xiu. "But forcing out all the yin energy in my body is equal to discarding my cultivation, nephew. I haven't yet avenged the enmity, how can I become disabled? Please trust me, uncle and I." Tang Xiu shook his head. "I won't let you become a waste, but will give you a huge benefit instead." "Trust him? And it will be beneficial for me?" After his complexion changed a few times, Ni Pengang only hesitated for less than 3 seconds before he shut his eyes and circulated the true qi in his system to force out the yin energy, forcing it to gather and flow to the lungs' acupoints. Puff. Blood splattered and the temperature around Ni Pengang dropped several degrees in just half a minute. Tang Xiu himself wasn't affected, but Tang Yunda and Ni Jia, who were very close to Ni Pengang, looked horrified and hurriedly retreated several steps. They felt the change of temperature just now and the burst of strong negative emotions and killing urge in their hearts, even though the person they wanted to kill was not Ni Pengang. Yet, that burst of negative emotion still made them horrified regardless. Time passed by and half an hour quickly fleeted by. Ni Pengang felt a sense of weakness. The true qi he had painstakingly cultivated had been forced out and all the yin energy in his system had been completely discharged. Tang Xiu kept paying attention to Ni Pengang's condition. After discovering his condition, he immediately pulled out 4 silver needles from his body and took out the medicinal ointment, and applied it to the wound above his lungs. He then took out a medicinal pill and stuffed it into Ni Pengang's mouth, saying, "Keep concentrating and refine your qi. Sense the flow of qi in your body and then circulate it according to this cultivation route." Having said that, Tang Xiu held his wrist and checked his pulse while transferring a thread of his primal chaos energy into his body to quickly absorb the energy contained in the pill. Opening up new meridians and acupoints was a joyous occasion for a cultivator, but Ni Pengang, who suffered a lot of pain, still made up his mind not to experience even 1/10 of this painful process ever again. However, he still wanted to know how beneficial it was, just like Tang Xiu said. Thus, he persevered and steeled himself from fainting because of pain. This time, 3 hours passed by as Ni Pengang felt his brain was as though filled with roars. The pain in his body disappeared like a tide, replaced by a warm flow of energy that circulated throughout his system and gave birth to intense comfort. It was so comfortable that he felt like he was soaking himself in warm water. He almost moaned due to the deep comfort. Tang Xiu's voice then sounded in his ear. Memorize this circulation route of true essence energy. Circulate your energy every day for at least 49 days. You can successfully embark on the cultivation path and become a qi refining stage cultivator after 3 months. A cultivator at the qi refining stage? Although Ni Pengang had no clue what this qi refining stage meant, he knew the existence of cultivators, some godlike characters in his eyes, who possessed mysterious supernatural abilities and power that was enough to make countless people worship them. Seeing the painful look on her father's face disappear completely, Ni Jia's restlessness finally eased down. She looked at Tang Xiu and asked, "How is my father's condition?" "He's doing great now. It can be said what happened to him was a blessing in disguise," said Tang Xiu smilingly. The erosion of yin energy in his system has badly harmed his internal condition, but after it got discharged, it left behind true essence energy after he cultivated in the cultivation technique I taught him. That's because the constant erosion of his physique was like an unceasing tempering that makes his physical condition to be much better than the average people because of the nourishment of the true essence energy. "I didn't understand anything you said." Ni Jia shook her head. "It doesn't matter if you don't understand." Tang Xiu smilingly replied, "You just need to know there's no hidden danger left in your father's body anymore. He'll even be much better than before after he wakes up." Ni Jia's lips squirmed a few times and she held some doubts over the statement. She had clearly seen Tang Xiu's action. He used 4 silver needles to pierce her father's body and even used a dagger to make a bleeding wound. How could it be possible that it was beneficial to him? Night fell and the chilling stream of energy made Ni Jia, whose physique was frail, shiver and her face to go pale. Tang Xiu, who sat not far from her, shook his head secretly. He took his coat off and handed it to her, saying, "Wear this." Ni Jia took the jacket and nodded without a word. Tang Xiu shifted his focus to Ni Pengang. As his body moved, he immediately said with a smile, "If my guess is correct, Uncle Ni should be waking up very soon." As he just said, Ni Pengang woke up from his cultivation as Tang Xiu's voice dissipated. When his sight was restored, he saw Tang Yunda, Tang Xiu, his daughter Ni Jia, and the rest sitting in front of him. He directly jumped up from the ground and moved his arm and underbody. He sensed the strength contained in his body now, and the way he looked at Tang Xiu suddenly turned different. "This is a very powerful strength," murmured Ni Pengang, a bit excited. "It was due to the essence amassing pill, so of course, it will be greatly beneficial to you," said Tang Xiu smilingly. "Do you remember what I said before? Keep circulating your true essence energy for 49 days every day and do it according to this circulation route. Keep practicing it for at least 3 months. Ni Pengang firmly nodded. He then hesitated and inquired. "Tang Xiu, you told me that I can become a cultivator if I persist for 3 months. Is that right?" "That's correct." Tang Xiu nodded. "The cultivation technique I taught you is one to reach immortality, though there are still the next contents to be taught. But I'll impart you the whole set of this cultivation technique later, so it won't be a problem for you to walk on the path of immortality in the future as long as you devote your time for cultivation well." Walking on the cultivation path and becoming an immortal? Ni Pengang's mouth twitched a few times and felt Tang Xiu was exaggerating a bit. "You seem to be more fortunate than me, Pengang." Tang Yunda chuckled and said, "Xiu had long taught me a cultivation technique too, but I haven't yet succeeded in cultivating true essence energy until now. Well, I took some good things too, quite a lot. But well, it was of no use." Ni Pengang's eyes instantly shone. He excitedly looked at Tang Xiu and asked, "That reminds me of something, nephew. You just said you gave me a medicinal pill, right? Your uncle is already old and it's likely I won't have an easy time in cultivation later. The progress speed of my cultivation can be faster with the help of these pills." Tang Xiu took a jade bottle from his interspatial ring and gave it to Ni Pengang while smiling. "There are 10 essence amassing pills here, but you mustn't take it in the next 3 months. Cultivation is like constructing a building. If the foundation isn't solid enough, it will be easy to encounter qi deviation symptoms in the future. You should also understand the principal truth that haste makes waste, Uncle Ni, so don't take this pill in any situation and just continue to practice for the next 3 months. You can still easily suppress some martial arts grandmaster experts later even without taking it." "I can easily suppress martial arts grandmaster level experts?" Ni Pengang blinked and his heartbeat sped up a few times, asking, "You're not lying to me, are you, nephew?" Chapter 1105, Unbelievable. Tang couldn't help laughing as he saw the anticipation on Ni Pengang's face. He took out 2 cigs and handed them to the man and his father before lighting them up. After lit one for himself, he took 2 deep puffs slowly and then smilingly spoke, "How can I lie to you, uncle? Your current strength should exceed what you have previously. You can give it a try if you don't believe me." Ni Pengang hesitated for a moment before he immediately looked at the 2 middle-aged men standing nearby. After waving at them, he said, "You two are powerful experts. I can defeat you one-on-one, but I'd have a hard time facing you both at the same time. I want to have a spar with you both." The 2 middle-aged men exchanged glances, and one of them wore a strange smile. "Are you sure, boss?" Ni Pengang paced a step forward in response, hooking a finger at him and saying, "Come at me and unleash everything you got." "Roger that." The 2 men exchanged glances and immediately charged toward Ni Pengang. Their speed was very fast and their strength was strong as well. Each of their movements created whistling sounds, and their striking punch had already reached Ni Pengang. Brows slightly furrowed, Ni Pengang engaged in footwork and instantly evaded the 2 men's strikes and shouted sternly, "Did you guys not eat yet or something? I told you to give me everything you got." The 2 middle-aged men looked confused. They had clearly gone all out, for God's sake. Their joint attack just now carried their rich combat experience and was flawless, and yet, why did Ni Pengang avoid them so easily? His speed, whispered a middle-aged man. The other one squinted and replied, even if he is stronger than before, we're not weak ourselves. Let's continue. Got it. Both of them were hardened experts and had rich actual combat experience. They constantly forced Ni Pengang to retreat with their joint attack. No matter what they did, however, they were still unable to injure him and weren't able to take any advantage. Even Ni Pengang's counterattacking punches and kicks hit them instead. Stop. Ni Pengang ceased attacking and stood still in his spot. He furrowed his brows and shouted, "What the hell are you two doing, huh? I told you to give me all you got, didn't I? Your strikes today are too soft, and your speed is so slow. I could have swept your teeth clean if I wanted to in just half a minute." What? The two men's eyes stared wide and just dumbly stared at Ni Pengang's angry face. Suddenly, they seemed to realize something and turned to look at Tang Xiu with a burning hope. It took only half a day, but Tang Xiu was able to make their boss, Ni Pengang, more formidable. It was a method that went against the natural order. They both also wanted to become stronger and advance a level in a short time like that. Tang Xiu felt a bit amused inwardly after seeing their looks. He came to Ni Pengang's side and half-smilingly said, "Well, it wasn't that they didn't go all out, Uncle Ni. It's because you've become stronger. You may not realize it yet, but you'll only understand how formidable a cultivator is after you've really advanced to the qi refining stage. You'll see that you're 10 times stronger than the current you by then." Ni Pengang stared blankly at Tang Xiu for a moment. Then, he shifted his focus to his two men and asked in a deep voice, "Are you sure you have gone all out just now?" "We are 100% sure. We even squeezed out every bit of our power." The two men were secretly disappointed to find that Tang Xiu just straightly ignored them. They immediately answered seriously upon hearing Ni Pengang's inquiry. Ni Pengang turned silent. Only after a long time did he finally look up and touch his chin, saying, "I'm going to follow and work under you later, Tang Xiu." Please don't say that, Uncle Ni. Tang Xiu hurriedly interjected. Dad is watching us, and you'll only make him give me some lessons. A smile appeared on Tang Yunda's face. He was very satisfied with his son's performance today. He and Ni Pengang were life and death brothers and had common enemies. Yet, he didn't have 100% assurance that the latter didn't felt any dissent and disloyalty after so many years. But regardless of that, he had literally submitted to his son. Anyway, hand over the security company and its manpower to Xiu Pengang. I'm sure he can train a large number of elite soldiers under his leadership, so we can avenge our enmity by then, said Tang Yunda smilingly. The senior members of our security company were all formed by you, Brother Tang. I've only been replenishing the new blood, so the number of manpower of the company has now reached 80 people, said Ni Pengang without hesitation. You can be assured that all of them are loyal and reliable brothers, so I'm very relieved to give them to Tang Xiu since this boy has the abilities. In the warehouse, the entire 80 members of Cloud Cauldron Security Company were all performing physical training. Beads of sweat had them drenched wet and they looked tired at this moment, yet none of them stopped training. Bam! A man who was as strong as an ox was kicking the hanging sandbags swiftly and fiercely. His naked upper body looked glossy, and awful scars decorated his streamlined muscles, which showed that he had faced and frequented life and death battles countless times. A scar also painted his face from the right eyebrow to the left, looking like a lying scorpion, making him look fearsome. Change your sandbag to the one that is more resistant to kicking, Yang Hu. A stalwart man grabbed a towel and wiped the sweat from his face and neck. He squeezed the towel to force the sweat out, shook his head and shouted. We got no sandbag more resistant to kicking, Captain. You kicked and blasted 2 of them this month. That was our last stock. A similarly tall young man in a black exercise suit rolled his eyes and answered with a helpless face. The burly man's brows turned and he angrily retorted. Are all the manufacturers that produce these shitty sandbags trash or something? Or are those bastards in the arsenal embezzling the funds and materials? These damn sandbags are not even enough for me to use even for 3 to 5 days, so fucking rubbish. The young man flung his face to the side directly. He was crystal clear about his captain's strength and power. Even if his punching power didn't reach 250 kilograms, it shouldn't be far off either. His kicking power was even more exaggerated at around 600 kilograms each foot. Coupled with his 1.9-meter height, he was absolutely a humanoid monster. Clap, clap, clap. Following his father and Ni Pengang into the warehouse, Tang Xiu's vision swept over the burly man and he applauded smilingly. What good strength! It's very rare for the average person to have such a big strength. But well, the quality of sandbags produced by the factories is indeed appalling. But if you need some sandbags, I'll have my men send you some that are impossible to explode even if you have thousands of pounds of punching power. Boss. The burly man nodded to Ni Pengang and just glanced at Tang Xiu apathetically. When his gaze shifted to Tang Yunda, his pupils shrunk and disbelief overflowed from his eyes. The towel in his hand fell to the floor and his body trembled. He charged forward like crazy toward Tang Yunda and loudly exclaimed, "You are Captain." Tang Yunda's eyes were a bit moist. He didn't allow Ni Pengang to tell the news that he was still alive to the rest of their brothers. He had been planning to hand them over to his son one day, so they could work for him. Zaibiao. Tang Yunda's lips squirmed as he looked at the burly Li Zaibiao's disbelieving face and slowly raised his arms. Clap. The two men's palms tightly gripped one another. They hugged tightly and patted each other's back. They were unable to calm their stirred-up emotions for a long time. Captain. Instructor. Brother Tang. Moving fast like a whirlwind, a dozen drenched-wet middle-aged men quickly dashed to Tang Yunda's front. All of them wore shocked and pleasantly surprised expressions. Tang Yunda released Li Zaibiao and embraced each and every one of the burly middle-aged men. Words were not necessary among men, for they only needed to know that you were safe and sound to show their sincerest attitude. But the rest of these stalwart men, more than 60 of them, were looking confused, though they felt that Tang Yunda was vaguely familiar. Who's this guy? Asked a big man who was holding a dumbbell with blue veins protruding on his forehead. No idea, mate. But he looks familiar, though. Well, could he be one of us? Besides, Kappa seems to forget himself meeting him. Did you hear what Kappa just addressed him? Captain? As the last person's voice faded away, the tens of strong men around him were all stunned and surprised. Disbelief covered their faces after half a minute and they shot fervent and fanatical looks toward Tang Yunda. That's right, it's Captain Tang Yunda. It's him. Damn right you're. It's definitely him. That's our idol, guys. They were all iron-blooded warriors, soldiers who had retired from the army and had experienced countless life-and-death battles. But they were unified by one role model in their hearts, which was the heroic captain of the Special Forces more than 2 decades ago, Tang Yunda. He was like a legend in the army, a powerful god of war. Tang Yunda's gaze swept over the old brothers lined up before him. His lips squirmed a few times as he hoarsely spoke with a happy face, "Great. This is great. You're all still alive. I never thought that I could see you again after waking up, brothers." Li Zaibiao asked, "Where have you been all these years, Captain? And what do you mean by waking up?" It was Ni Pengang who explained it to him. Brothers, Brother Tang was secretly schemed against and attacked by powerful enemies and then turned into vegetative all these years. He has spent 2 decades in bed, but now he woke up and returned back to us while harboring the same hatred as us. He went vegetative for 20 years. Everyone looked shocked. They never dreamed that Tang Yunda could actually wake up from that condition. Further, he looked like he was no different from normal people.